Let's talk a little bit about absolute and relative age. We've been talking about this for the last week or so, and so let's just review a couple of things. First of all, an absolute age is when you get the exact actual age in years of something. We can do that by radiometric dating, where we use the half-life of different atoms or different elements. We take those properties of those atoms and we can use those to determine that absolute age of whatever it is that we are looking for. When we're talking about half-lives of a radioactive element, such as, say, carbon, we know that over a certain period of time, we lose half of it. So, for example, if I have 100 grams of carbon and it goes through one half-life, it's 5,380 years, after that time period, I lose half of it, so I now have 50. One half-life has passed by. The second half-life is going to go next, and at the end of that time period, I will lose half of what I had left from the last time. And so that would be the half of the 50. So at the second half-life, I'm going to have 25 grams that is left. So that we understand that we understand that the parent material is the material that we start off with, and the daughter material is the material that we end up with. Relative age of the rocks is when we take the different items or the different rock layers and the fossils, etc., in the rock layers, and we compare them and we see the relationship between them, and we can find out the relative age of that. If I know the age of the rock layer, then I can then say that those fossils are within that same time frame because of that. While we're talking about fossils, if I have the same type of fossils over a large span of land, then that tells me that those layers are correlated because they have the same fossils in them. They were laid down at the same time, and that is really a very important aspect that you need to remember. So you need to know that the difference between absolute and relative age. You also need to know if I layer my layers up, which one are older and which one are younger. So if I get a question like that on my quiz that I'm going to take tomorrow, then draw them out and see which ones are on the bottom, and we know those are oldest, and which ones are the youngest because we know those would be on the top. Remember, a lot of these things that you're going to see on this quiz tomorrow are things that we have talked about recently, or what was on your part of semi close to what was on your last test. It's important that you read it carefully and you take your time to do it. So remember the difference between the absolute and relative age, how you know that rock layers are correlated, how the fossils can influence it, and that if you have land masses where there are similar fossils throughout, then they were, even if they're large distances apart from each other, they were laid down at the same time. Now I would like you to close this out and go ahead and play the Quizlet for your quiz tomorrow, and that will help you with that.